Good afternoon. We would like to welcome all of you to KEI's forum on human security in North Korea. As many of you know, the very core idea of this forum is the idea of human security as described in the 1994 UNDP Human Development Report. It's a concept that has at its core the 7 threat areas identified by the UNDP: economic, health, environmental, food, personal, community, and political security, all pertaining to the concept of human security. We have structured our programs along 3 main themes: development assistance, humanitarian assistance, and human rights. This is the 4th program that we're having on this issue of human security in North Korea. We have been privileged to have most outstanding speakers join us in our first program in March of last year, a program on humanitarian assistance to North Korea. We had Karen Lee, the Executive Director of the National Committee on North Korea, John Brozek, Deputy Administrator with the Bureau for Democracy, Conflict, and Humanitarian Assistance at the U.S. Agency for International Development, previously in charge of designing and implementing USAID activities in North Korea, Paul Majarowitz, the Director of the NGO Food Assistance Program to North Korea for Mercy Corps, and then we had the privilege of having the UN Special Rapporteur for the situation of human rights in North Korea, Professor Vitit Muntarporn, join us for a program in April of 2009. Then Professor Muntarporn graciously accepted our invitation to return to KEI in the fall of the last year. We would like to remind you that the fact that KEI is having this program is by no means an endorsement of an approach over another. Our intention is simply to provide a forum for discussion, a forum to listen to the opinions of experts, officials working for government and international agencies, practitioners with experience delivering technical assistance in the field, and analysts. Before we proceed with today's program, I would like to remind you that that side door provides access to the hallway, the elevator, and KEI's other significant facilities. On behalf of KEI, I would also like to apologize for having failed you. We have failed to provide rice and meat soup for everyone. However, we have cookies, water, soda, and coffee available in the back. Please help yourselves. I have the great privilege of introducing our speaker today, Dr. Jerry Nelson, who was Curator's Distinguished Professor of Plant Sciences at University of Missouri, Columbia until late last year. He's one of the world's most renowned authorities in grasslands, cropping systems, and environmental issues. He has published over 200 referee research papers, over 150 technical reports, and has co-authored 5 books. Dr. Nelson has had field experience and delivered technical assistance in countries all over the world, in Tunisia, Morocco, Kenya, in India, in China, in Taiwan, in South Korea, and most significantly, he's currently working on projects in Vietnam and North Korea. He has most recently visited North Korea in November of last year as part of a project that University of Missouri, that the College of Agriculture, Food, and Natural Resources at University of Missouri is implementing in North Korea. This is a project to assess and improve capacity in cropping systems, in food stock, and in water management. Without further ado, Dr. Nelson, we look forward to your presentation and the great North Korea Forum program today.
Thank you, Greg. As you note, I'm a little bit taller than Greg, and I'm not sure the microphones are adequately placed from a physical perspective, but if you can hear me, we'll go forward and see what happens. The incipient transition. What do you see happening? As all of you know, it's hard to get the data to prove what's happening, but I wanted to let you know some of the observations. As one of the persons who has had the privilege of traveling in rural parts of the DPRK, we get a unique opportunity to also gain insight as to how things are going and what direction they're going. That's sort of the theme I want to express with you today. In this slide, you see some people paying very close attention to a field of alfalfa. As an experienced observer in agronomy, we would look at things more than just the field of alfalfa. You would notice, or the agronomist would notice, that there are clumps in the soil out here in front, which means that the soil's porosity is relatively low. In other words, its ability to hold water in those clumps. The other thing you'll notice is in the background, the hillsides are rather barren. And that happened during the famine, when a lot of the land was misused. On the left-hand side, you'll see some other areas where they have tried to do some terracing. It's hard for you to see it, to control the erosion. This was my first visit, and it was quite an interesting one to get a first glimpse of what's happening. There's a lot more. I want to talk just a little bit about the comparison of Pyongyang and the rural area. Many people I've talked to said, yes, I've been in a DPRK, and what did you see? They did not see the things that we were able to see. And there is a big difference. What are the challenges of the current situation? I want to review a little bit on three priorities: water, energy, and fertilizer. And then briefly touch a little bit on plant agriculture and animal agriculture and some of the things that are changing. And what are some of the prospects for the future. Again, the presentation will be largely visual and not very data-oriented because it's very difficult to get the data. Let's start. My experiences with DPRK are indirectly or directly related over the last 10 years or so. A little bit longer than that, perhaps. But in the year 2000, we began our work at the University of Missouri when the interests of the DPRK were largely on poultry and swine management. At that time, there was a great interest in confinement systems and factory farms. The cooperatives going together to have large herds of swine where the pigs would be born in one farm, would be transferred to another, be fed out, there would be a slaughtering facility, and all of the waste would go back to the land. A grand plan. But it didn't come to pass because of some things that happened. A little bit later, after negotiations and relationships between the two countries had improved, we had a chance to meet with some North Koreans in China. The issues were water management and seed production. Shifted from the animal science thing that hadn't really gone in the direction that they had hoped. Later in 2006, when I made my first actual visit to the country, issues had changed even more. And so you see the interest in forage crops for slowing erosion after they recognized the problem, providing feed for the goats and the rabbits, the small animals that had taken the place of the swine and beef and other things that they had designed earlier. Nitrogen fixation from the air because the fertilizer issues were greater. Soil sampling. How do we deal with this natural resource to make it productive? In addition to cover crops for winter, nitrogen fixation, and now more recently crop rotations and better nutrient use, and again nitrogen. Now you've seen a theme on nitrogen and fertility throughout that particular series, including the early work with the swine and the poultry houses that are using manure. Fundamentally, North Korea cannot feed itself. It runs typically about 30% low on food production. And you go back to 1989, and when the support from the Soviet Union and other places started fading, and the cause-effect relationship is quite strong between the fertilizer use and the crop production, in other words, the amount of food production based on plants. At the same time, the food need was relatively stable, and you folks who study populations can explain that better than me. But nevertheless, the always less than the population really has for a need.